Hello, today we're going to talk about the documentary assignment that you have assigned for my class. If you look at the assignment itself, it says that your task is to watch a documentary, something that you have selected, hopefully based on a topic that interests you. And then you're going to analyze that documentary via a notes sheet and then a Google Slides presentation. So your first step is going to be to pick a documentary. You have all the different streaming services at your disposal. Not sure if any of you have all three, but hopefully you have at least one. However, if you don't have any if you don't have any streaming services, there are some free documentaries that are available online that I will point you to in a second. If you're having trouble finding a documentary to choose, just email me or Zoom with me and we'll figure something out and find something for you. Below on this sheet, there is a list of potential documentaries that you can do. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, these are some that either I have seen or I know are pretty good. You can also click on these links and they will bring you to, for example, this is Netflix's documentaries page. So you could access potential documentaries here, or you could just go on to the streaming service itself and find the documentaries section. I imagine most of you are fairly skilled at navigating the different streaming services. But if you're not, at least find like the search bar and type in documentary, and I'm sure you'll find that particular category. Okay, so you're going to select your documentary. Actually, you're going to select 3 documentaries. You're obviously only going to watch one. What I want you to do is you're going to put your top 3 list of documentaries that you found in research that sound interesting to you. You're going to write these 3 choices here. The reason this is because I don't want everyone choosing the same documentary. I also don't want any potentially inappropriate documentaries being chosen. So I just want to be able to look through and see what your choices are and then tell you which one you've been approved for. So you'll submit this sheet for a pretty easy homework grade. Again, it'll be your top 3 documentaries that you found in your research. Make sure you put the full name in each category. And then fairly quickly, I will tell you which documentary you've been approved for. Okay, so after you're approved for your documentary, you'll have at least 3 or 4 days to watch it. So you're going to watch it. If it's a film and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, then you just take notes on that film. If it's multiple episodes, you have the option of either watching the first 2 or 3 episodes, or you can watch the whole season if you want. Some of these documentaries are very engrossing, so I imagine it might be difficult to only watch a few. You're going to want to watch the whole thing and see how it ends. But just to make the work equal, if you do have a series instead of a film, you'll still have to do the same amount of work because usually 2 to 3 episodes of a series documentary is usually the same amount of time for a full-length documentary film. Okay? While you're watching the film or the show, you're going to take notes on this note sheet. Okay? While you're watching. Okay, while you're watching the documentary, you fill this out, and then when you're done, you are going to submit this for an additional homework grade. You'll see there's requirements on here as far as how much information you need to have in each square, or each row and column, I mean. Okay, and then that's the note sheet. Okay, if you work with a partner, you can fill out the note sheet collaboratively. As long as one person submits it to me, that's fine. Okay, and then after you finish watching it, you've taken notes, you'll use those notes and your knowledge of the documentary to fill out a slides document, analyzing the documentary. Your first slide is just your cover slide with your name of the documentary, name of the filmmakers. Slide 2 is who is the documentary about? Is it about a particular person? Is it about a particular event? Is it about a particular movement? What is it about? And then what's the main message the director wants to get across to the audience? Every documentary filmmaker has a purpose why they filmed this documentary. Either they're trying to get a message across, they're trying to inform you of some topic that is important for some reason, they're trying to persuade you of something. Try to see if you can figure out what exactly is the filmmaker trying to communicate to his or her audience. Slide 3 is how did the filmmakers attempt to convince you of their purpose? What methods did they use? Was there a soundtrack? Was there interviews? Was there actual footage of the event or the person? Was there particular images that were shown? How did they structure the documentary? Like, did they show you events out of order? Did they show you the terrible murder at the very beginning, and then the rest of the documentary is all the events that led up to that terrible murder? How exactly did they structure it? Okay, all of those methods are designed to try to convince you of their purpose. Okay, you need to find at least two methods that they used, and each requires 2 to 3 sentences of analysis on how it was used and if it was effective. You'll notice length requirements are in bold underneath each slide. Slide 4 is which part of the documentary did you like most? What did you learn about the topic or subject of the documentary that you didn't know before? And then lastly, list one criticism of the documentary. Was there something they could have explained better? Did they miss an opportunity to go into further depth on some aspect of the film? Was there something about how they structured it or used music or audio or interviews that you didn't think was done effectively? Okay, you answer each one of these bullets in 3 to 4 sentences. Slide 5 is a simple slide. Would you recommend this documentary to your friends? Why or why not? This needs to be at least 3 to 4 sentences in length and cite at least 2 specific reasons why you would or wouldn't recommend the documentary. And then lastly, this isn't an additional slide, but throughout your slide presentation, you need at least 5 different visuals. They could be visuals from the documentary. They could be visuals that have some sort of connection to the topic or the subject of your documentary. You don't need to explain the visuals anywhere, but you need to have at least 5 scattered about. There are 5 slides, so maybe 1 per slide. Maybe you want to have 2 visuals on slide 2, 2 on slide 3, 1 on slide 4. It's really up to you as long as there's 5 visuals total. Okay, if you continue to scroll down, again, here's all the recommendations, all the lists that you can look at. One important thing to note that some documentaries are rated TVMA, or perhaps R if they're a film. So if you or your parent or guardian are not comfortable with you watching something rated TVMA, please pick another documentary that is rated more appropriately. There's plenty of documentaries that are rated under TVMA. So if you really are uncomfortable with watching something that is perhaps a bit too adult, then please pick something else. And if you're not sure about that, you can always ask me a question. Here's that link to the free documentaries online. Okay, and then lastly, this is the rubric that I will use to grade your slides. So all in all, you'll have 3 grades. Okay, you'll have the top 3 list, homework grade. You'll have assignment grade, I should say. The note sheet, another assignment grade. Okay, and then your assessment grade will be your slides. Okay, that is the documentary assignment. There is a sample documentary I have here. Now, this was done by a student last year. This was during the remote learning. I thought a documentary project while remote learning would be a good idea because you have more time and you also are home, so it's easier to watch a documentary on your own TV. So he did the documentary about Scientology. If you don't know anything about, it's a new religion, I guess you can call it, that was started about 20 years ago. A bunch of celebrities are in it. It's got a pretty bad reputation as being a pretty out there religion / cult, perhaps you would call it. Here's his what's the purpose of the documentary, the main message. Here he talks about this slide actually is not required any longer. This is his slide on what's the subject of the documentary. Here you see he's got one of his visuals. This is his slide continued about what is the subject of the documentary, what's it about. Here's another visual. Again, these are all important leaders in Scientology, so these visuals are pretty relevant to his presentation. Okay, continues. You don't have to have as much information as this, but clearly this student went above and beyond, which is great. Another visual. How did the film attempt to convince you of their purpose? Another visual. Okay, you can see each slide. It's pretty obvious which is which. How does the film attempt to convince you of their purpose? This one's about music choices that the film used. This also talks about how the documentary used videos and different visuals and how if that was effective or not. And then these are the last slides about whether he liked it or not, and would you recommend it to your friends. Obviously, your documentary is your presentation is going to be a little different because I've actually reduced the amount of requirements and the amount of slides and the amount of information. So your slide presentation is going to be a little less work than this. But still, if you put in the effort, you're more likely to get an A than if you just did the bare minimum. Okay, so that's the documentary project. I believe that's all there is to say about it. Good luck.